And hello, everyone. Welcome to Rich Sports Talk. Thank you for joining us on the program today. If you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss any of our engaging content involving our New York Jets and the NFL draft. The draft is fast approaching, ladies and gentlemen, which inspired me for my video today. And again, check out the community page. If you're a subscriber, check out the community tab. We put votes out for you, and this was a vote for you guys. I asked you guys what video you would like today. You voted, and this is, of course, the result, which doesn't mean the second option won't get a video later this week. If you want to see that, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of that content. If you want to donate to the channel or guarantee that your comment is read, use that super chat feature to jump to the front of the line. And look, I wanted to give us a little bit of a change up here on the Draft Monday. Next week will be my final 7-round mock draft for the Jets. It will be my final first round for the NFL. So we will have 2 mock drafts coming for you next Monday, which should definitely be a lot of fun. But I wanted to do something differently. I think especially for Jet fans, we've talked ad nauseum about pick 7. We talked ad nauseum about pick 42. I think a lot of the draft talk has been about day 1, obviously, and we're starting to get into that day 2 conversation. But what I really wanted to do is focus on day 3, because day 3 is a crucial step in the NFL draft. It's a step where you fill out the rosters. And again, you obviously want diamonds in the rough on day 3 that could potentially become superstars like a Puka Nacua, Tom Brady. We throw those names around all the time. But more often than not, you're just looking for guys that can make a 53 and can make some impact on a roster. I'm not saying be an everyday starter, but could they be a valuable role player? Could they be a glue player? Could they be someone that can make a big impact on special teams and people that can help fill out this roster? So today I compiled 10 guys who I think could be day 3 targets for the Jets and who you should get familiar with, because don't be surprised if you see these names get picked. Now, in full transparency, I tried to go across every position as possible. There will be some positions that will be skipped. I do think, though, you're going to see a lot of the depth pieces in this draft come through, but I wanted to address every single position that I could. So let's get started with our first one, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, we're talking about the New York Jets. And you know what that means. When we talk about the New York Jets, we have to talk about one thing always. We have to talk about the quarterback position. And my first one is Cam Miller, the quarterback from North Dakota State. You looked at Cam Miller, and again, he's a sawed-off quarterback, 6'1", 215, but there's a lot of things that I do like about Miller coming out of the draft. Number one, he is a 4-year starter. This is someone that has over 11,000 yards of offense in college, and he has been a national champion at the FCS level. This is someone that I look at as a very good athlete, a great athlete for his size, and could really push that third quarterback role. I know we talked ad nauseum about Jordan Travis with the Jets this offseason, but this could be someone that pushes him. This is someone that is a 4-year star. And don't forget, for people that will scoff at FCS, that scoff at this North Dakota system, that scoff at drafting a quarterback from this school, never forget Carson Wentz came from this school and looked like he could be a potential MVP candidate before his career was altered with that terrible ACL injury. This is someone that's a very intelligent game manager. He's someone that relies on timing. He doesn't have a big arm to push the ball down the field, but this is someone that is spunky, can move around in the pocket, can make plays with his legs, and is someone that is a gamer and someone that, if you have to call upon, could be a very valuable piece. Keep in mind, Tyrod Taylor only has 1 more year left on his contract. The Jets, even if they love Justin Fields, you look at the NFL now, you need a competent backup. And if you project that Cam Miller can be a player that can come in 1 or 2 games a season and allow you to compete every single week, I think that that is an incredibly valuable position. And this could be a name that I could see the Jets going to on day 3 of the draft, especially addressing the quarterback position. Again, guys, if you're joining us during the live stream, make sure to use that super chat to jump to the front of the line. Up next, let's add some weapons. I have 2 wide receivers. Let's first kick it off with Arian Smith from Georgia. 6-foot-tall receiver, blinding speed, average almost 20 yards per catch over his career. But there's a couple things why he will fall into this range. This is someone that, when he has the ball in his hands, is unbelievable and can make plays. But he's a one-year starter. He isn't a natural catcher of the football, and a lot of the production on the field that didn't happen was because of drops. He did show improvement at finishing grabs over the season. He did look good in the Senior Bowl. He, especially when he was contested, looked very good. This is someone that is a vertical target, someone that is a big burner, but is going to need a bit of time to develop. For the Jets, especially with a regime that's seemingly looking like they're looking to build things out and look for the long term in 2026, this could be an interesting dart throw here on day 3. Someone that can stretch the field, someone that can take the top off of a defense, and someone that can pull coverage off of guys like Garrett Wilson. If you have that big play threat on the outside, it can be incredibly difficult to match up on. And look, this is a staff that seems to like a lot of explosive players, and they like the upside of players. This is someone that you take a dice roll on. If it doesn't work out, it could maybe hit you. But I do look at another key thing with him. With this speed that he has, could he be a very good gunner? We've talked about the gunning position with this team since they lost Justin Hardy. It's been a little bit lacking. This could be someone that, when we look at him being a decoy, but more importantly, being a guy on special teams that could act as a gunner on game day, that could be a real game changer for this team, and also add a key roster piece. Because don't forget, on day 3, you're looking for guys that are not just going to fill out one role, but multiple roles on a team. Let's stick with the wide receiver room, and those who follow the channel will recognize the next one. That is Nick Nash, the wide receiver from San Jose State. My big thing with him is, and as I accidentally typed San Diego State there, my apologies. So it's San Jose State. Here's the thing. He's a tremendous competitor. He's 25 years old, an older prospect. He's above the rim. He's not someone that's going to be a burner. He's a possession receiver. I think you look at his route trees a little bit limited, but the Jets lack size on the outside. Could be an interesting player on day 3. And I think he's going to fall to day 3 despite the production, despite the big ability to catching traffic and being a red zone rep. And I do think what you're going to see with Nash is someone that's going to fall because he's an older prospect at 25. And look, it seems like the Jets want younger players. But if he's sitting there in round 5, round 6, round 7, and they feel he can get into the starting 5 of this wide receiver room, push wide receiver 4, wide receiver 3, and just add a red zone weapon, I think that will be incredibly crucial. Let's stick with the offense, and let's go to Syracuse. And I have Oronde Gadsden II. Now, the thing is, I think the Jets are going to address the tight end position in the first 2 days of the draft. But just because they do that doesn't mean they're not going to take 2 tight ends in this draft. And I look at this potential pick here, and I see a 2-year starter, more of a joker tight end, lining up all over the field, lining up over 58% of those snaps in the slot, more of a hybrid type of role. Gadsden is a willing blocker. He does lack a little bit of technique, has some trouble. The big thing with him that I like is he's a big possession receiver. The ball gets thrown in his vicinity, he's going to make a play. He doesn't have that burst to really create a lot of separation. He's not going to be a tight end that runs away from people. He's not going to be an explosive tight end, which I think will push him down the board. But overall, we talked about getting key conversions in this offense. We talk about moving the football. We talk about converting on third down. We talk about scoring in the red zone. This could be a nice depth piece for the Jets here with Gadsden II, because I look at it, you throw it in his direction, he's going to catch it. He's a functional athlete. He's not going to be a burner at the next level, but he can move around on different parts of the field. And depending on the tight end that you select on night 1, maybe even night 2, this could be a very nice compliment. I think we're going to get a better perspective of the Jets tight end room, especially how the staff views Jeremy Ruckert, how the staff views the guys already on this roster. But this is another piece that I do think the Jets could look to add. I'm going to do a little bit of a curveball here. I'm going to go to a position that I don't think we've talked about at all for the Jets this offseason. And let's talk about the interior offensive line. Yes, we've talked about tackles ad nauseum. We talked about tackles at 7. And although I do like the depth that the Jets do now have on the interior offensive line, especially with the signings, I still think you need to look at developing a guard and bringing more interior depth here. And I really like Hayden Connor. He's a very good pass blocker, but there's a couple of things that I really love about this kid. He's played over 3,000 snaps in 4 seasons, which tells me he's durable. He's a guy that's going to play an entire season, and you need guys, especially with the Jets. We've seen this offensive line relatively the previous 2 years, the health issue. He is someone that had 43 straight starts. I don't think he's got a lot of punch in the run game, but the thing I really like is he is a great pass protector. 0 sacks last season. Once again, big fat old goose egg from Hayden Connor. This is someone that usually at the guards, you want to see them being able to get up the field and really be that hammer in the run game. This to me is a very nice player, could be a nice plug and play player. And look, let's be honest too, when you look at the Jets guard positions, I know people we've talked about moving Tippmann to guard or him filling in, but wouldn't it be easier if Connor could just be a plug and play player if John Simpson has to miss some time? And the other key thing you have to keep in mind with the Jets, you have Elijah Vera Tucker coming to the end of his contract. Could this be a guy that gives you someone that could be a plug and play starter potentially in 2026, a little bit long term in case you lose AVT? And don't forget with AVT, as much as we loved seeing AVT get through the whole season, the 2 previous seasons, he couldn't even get through half of a season. He's had crippling injuries that have cost him a full season. So having that depth, especially on the offensive line, is crucial, especially with how much you're going to want to run the football. And I understand Connor might not have that punch that you're expecting for a guy in the run game, but this to me is someone that is out there every single time. He's putting a good effort, and he's someone that is reliable. And that's something that I feel the Jets, especially in the terms of the depth of the offensive line, have been severely lacking for a while. So we talked about the offensive side. Let's switch to the defensive side of the ball. And I do think day 3 is going to be a very important position for the defense because, again, you see a lot of guys who you projected to go in the first 2 days of the draft fall to day 3 on the defensive side. And I do think that the Jets are going to look to probably focus more on the defense on day 3, put more of a greater emphasis on the offense early in this draft, and then fill out the rest of this defense. So I have Fadil Diggs, the edge from Syracuse, as my first guy to keep an eye on. Led the team in tackles for a loss with 14, 7.5 in 2024 for sacks. His rush attack, a bit unpredictable. He's got a nice long stride that he can get around the edge. He can bulldoze at the point of contact. The thing you want to see him is really set the edge. I do love that he's not afraid of contact. He's willing to stick his nose there on the run play. I just think he needs a little bit more technique, but he's a well-rounded player. He's got a lot of athleticism. You look at the build that he has. There's a lot of nice things you like here. There's a lot of tools in the toolbox, and you look at him being an NFL backup and being a situational pass rusher. And let's be honest, the Jets' defensive end room is incredibly thin. And if you can get someone that is a spot guy that can come in, come off the edge, especially later on day 3, it is an incredibly value. And I think this would be a very nice piece in giving the Jets a much needed change up in that pass rushing room. And I think they have a great in Jermaine Johnson. I think Will McDonald's great. But right now, after them, there is a severe drop off to the next one. But I'm also going to look at another edge rusher potentially for the Jets, and that is Kyle Kennard out of South Carolina. Look, when you lead the SEC in sacks, you're a name that's going to pique my interest. 11.5 sacks and falling just short of the single season record for Jadeveon Clowney for South Carolina. Now, to be fair, Kennard really is a one-season wonder. They used him at what we would call like a jet mode as a super senior. He was basically lined up super wide, was able to use his length and speed to take off, get wide of the formation, and get to the quarterback. Now, again, he has great length. He can find ways to get off the blocks, but he is a bit inconsistent, and bigger guys have had a tendency to engulf him. But you look, there's a lot of tools here that you really like. He brings incredible speed off the edge, which is very difficult to really appreciate, and he can pin his ears back and get to the quarterback. He is a pass rushing specialist. I think that this could be a guy that what we thought Will McDonald might be, or a lesser Will McDonald, which is someone that, yes, Maybe not early in the packages he's out there, but on third down, you can kick some bigger guys on the inside and just have him come screaming like a bat out of heck off the edge. Kennard, depending on how this Jet defense wants to attack, how they want to use their edges, how they want to attack the point, whether it's more with speed, with power, this could be an intriguing option here that could come off the edge and be in that sub package as a pass rusher. And look, if you're able to get a guy like this in round 5, round 6, and if the Jets could look to build out this defensive end room on those days, they don't need guys that are going to come in right away and make an impact, but you want to have at least solid backups where if you have to turn to them later in the season for key pass rush snaps, you feel like you're going to get some oomph from that room. Well, we've talked a lot about speed. We've talked a lot about that edge presence. And again, guys, use that super chat feature to jump to the front of the line and also put your comments in there as we will get to them at the end of this video. Next, we've gone with a lot of speed. How about power? Nazir Stackhouse from Georgia. It's a fitting name. He's a power-packed defensive tackle in the middle of the field. And look, I talked a lot about third down on the last 2 players. But we also need guys that are going to be in running situations in the first 2 down situations. And look, this is a 320-pound human being. The Jets do not have a lot of beef on that defensive line. They do not have a run stuffer. And Stackhouse, to me, is a very good run stuffer. I'd like to see him get a little bit more off the blocks, be a little bit more juice as a backfield disruptor. But look, this is a powerful human that can 2-gap you to death. He eats up double teams, makes it very difficult to run. And look at it this way. Quinnen Williams last year got a lot of attention. If Stackhouse can draw double teams from a center and guard combination, it's going to allow Quinnen to get a lot more one-on-one work, a lot of one-on-one matchups, which will make him even better as a player. Look, Stackhouse is not someone that's going to move the needle. He's not going to get those sexy pass rushing stats as a defensive tackle. But what the Jets have missed in the middle of that defense is someone that can just eat blocks and stuff up the running game. And I think he would be an incredible addition in round 3. So we talked about the defensive line ad nauseum. I didn't really feel like there was a great necessarily pure linebacker in a sense that I really liked. And even the cornerback position on day 3 is a little bit suspect. But I did find 2 players to round up this list on the back end of the defense at the safety position. So Andrew Makubo, the safety from Texas, will be our first safety. He is someone that is really good at playing with conviction. He has control to get correct angles when he misses a big play. He is one of those guys, he's a smaller safety, but plays bigger than his size. I do think that's going to lead him to drop in the draft. He's good to read, run pass options. He doesn't get fooled very often, has great discipline and coverage. There's a lot of discipline with him that I really like, and this is a very smart football player that I think Aaron Glenn and the staff could coach up. But one thing I really love about him is this is someone that has great discipline. 18 passes defense, but here is my favorite stat of all, especially with the Jets. 0 penalties in 26 games in college, or the final 26 games of his career. Again, I will repeat that, 0 penalties, which is something that the Jets, especially this defense, has had a lot of issues with over the last couple of years, has been the discipline. This is someone that plays very smart. He can play in the run. He can play in coverage. He brings energy. He brings instincts. I'm not saying he could be a day 1 starter, but he is an intriguing guy that I could see them groom into a potential long-term free safety on this team. I think I look at that safety room right now. I think this draft, you're looking to maybe bring in an undrafted guy, draft someone, and see if you can develop one of them or develop them along with Tony Adams and see which one sticks. But now we get to our final our final player for this. And for the Jets, it's another safety and someone that if you've been following the channel, you should be fairly familiar with, RJ Minkins. And now Minkins, I've been someone that's talked about him a lot on this channel. So I think he's a very good versatile defensive back, can play multiple positions. And the real reason I really like him is he's been able to line up in the slot. He can line up high. He can line up in the box. There's a lot of versatility to his game where, yes, he can play safety, but he could also be a hybrid corner. And to me, that's an incredible thing in terms of depth. When we're talking about guys on day 3, you want them to fill multiple roles where they can contribute on special teams. But another key aspect is you're only allowed so many people on game day. So how do you address that? You get players that can play multiple positions. So let's say maybe the Jets want to carry an extra offensive lineman for a game. Maybe they want to carry an extra receiver, an extra running back. Having a guy like Minkins can allow you to be a little bit creative in the back room. It's like, okay, we're only going to carry 3 safeties instead of the usual 4 because Minkins can play both safety and corner or vice versa. So having a versatility piece like this is a very smart piece. He's a smart football player, and I do think he's someone the Jets have keenly been interested in. And whether it's just as a role player, I still think that is a very smart investment. But you need guys that can play safety, can play corner, can play multiple positions, and help you establish good depth. And right now, I think this is a guy that would clearly help establish strong depth for the New York Jets. So that is the list, the top 10 names for the New York Jets to keep an eye on day 3 of the NFL draft. So there is a lot of talk here, and I want to make sure I get to all your comments. But again, guys, if you want to guarantee that yours will get to the top of the list, use that super chat feature. And again, do not miss all of our latest on social media. Follow at the handle Rich Sports Talk. And again, check out our community page on the channel because you guys helped vote for this today. You voted for this video, which doesn't mean the other option won't get made later this week. But again, this is something that I thought would be a very fun thing to do. And it's a part of the draft that I don't think a lot of people, to be honest, are really focusing on right now. Because again, I get the numbers. I get how people are looking at the people are looking at the top of the draft, and I know it moves the needle, but to me, I think that it's just as important to really look at someone that's going to make an impact on day 3 of the draft. As I hit my microphone right there, and again, sorry about that. But let's get to some of your comments. The always engaged Tony Alexio, longtime listener of the show. If Sanders, which I'm guessing is Shadur, falls to 7, hopefully our trade down package will be better. If he's there at 7, I do think you could get an offer. The hard part for me with Shadur is the Panthers don't really seem interested in a quarterback. I still think there are some interesting trade down scenarios, which was the other video that I was going to make today, but I will reveal that later this week. And we will dump into more of that, Tony. But again, that's a very good question. Dante Thornton, the wide receiver from Tennessee, is a beast. Thank you for letting us know there. Thornton, again, I really like the size, 6'5", a little bit over 200 pounds. The hard part is you look at the speed. I do really like the speed that he brings to the table. Look, I do think that this is someone that when I look at Tennessee, it's hard with that spread offense to really evaluate sometimes some of these receivers. But one of the big things I really like about him is how well he runs his routes and how many routes he has in his route tree, which again, like when I mentioned some of the receivers earlier, I think that they have some great physical ability, but you can tell that they're somewhat limited of a route tree. But I also think it's going to be interesting, Brian, to see what type of players the Jets draft. If they're looking for guys that are maybe better route runners than overall athletes, maybe that's someone that they look for later in day 3. We're going to learn a lot about this Jet front office. The big thing which makes it a little bit harder right now is we have an idea of what they are looking for. We have an idea. We have our theories. We have our speculation. But overall, we don't really know. We won't find out until draft day, and then we'll get a much clearer picture of what the Jets value, what positions they value more, what type of players they value more. Do they value the athlete more? Do they value the production? Do they value the upside more? Do they value the floor more? There's a lot we're going to learn. But again, Dante Thornton is a good dart throw. And Brian, you did a lot of great homework on that. And that was a really good question and a very thoughtful one. If Torrey Horton falls to the 4th, I think he should be in the conversation at wide receiver. legit speed and movement skills. Jalen Conyers is my day 3 tight end choice. Good blocking and just enough receiving. Conyers could be an interesting day 3 choice. A lot of it comes down to 2 is what kind of complements they're going to look for at the tight end position, because I do really believe that a lot of it is going to come down to finding maybe a fit. Like if they get more of like my thought is if they're going to get a more dynamic pass catcher early in the draft, maybe they're going to look for more of a primary run blocker. So that is something I would look at to see if they complement. But who knows? There might be a situation where they don't look at it. And look, I do think you look at Horton out of Colorado State. I do think that you look at the production, it clearly is there. He has explosive downfield ability. The big thing with him is he needs to work on the route running and being stronger. But the big thing is the fluidity and speed is very, very good. And the other big thing, too, that I don't think we're talking about with Horton, which I also really like, he's a dynamic returner. I know it's not the sexiest topic to talk about is special teams, but Horton could be a dynamic punt returner. And I think the Jets have sorely been lacking in the punt returning department over the past 2 seasons. I know Gibson came on the scene, obviously, with the Buffalo game, but I don't know if it was he lacked confidence last year. I don't know if something got in his head, but he wasn't the same returner last year, which is evident why the Jets went and got the returner they let go of after the preseason. Now, I'm also curious to see, too, how they look at their return game with Malachi Corley. Does he become an asset there, too? But again, I do like the wide receiver suggestions. And again, guys, if you're in this live stream, give us your suggestions. And of course, if you're joining us after the live stream, don't be afraid to throw out players you like on day 3. I know everyone has their own tastes. Everyone's seen different players. Everyone has different experiences at live games. I would love to hear day 3 players that you think of. Maybe they're quarterbacks. Maybe they're skill position players. Maybe there's an offensive lineman or defensive lineman that I didn't mention that you think could be a really good fit for this team. But overall, I do think that there's going to be a lot of talent on day 3. And the Jets also have multiple picks on day 3. I'm very curious to see if they're going to do what they did kind of last year, which is propel out of an early 4th to get more draft capital and move down. Again, it worked well last year because they were able to turn that into guys like Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis. Like, I would make the case the Jets had a very good day 3 last year. It's just frustrating because, the 3rd round pick didn't really turn out as well as I think a lot of people were expecting. But again, guys, the chat is open. Make sure to give us your thoughts on the players that were mentioned. Again, these were top 10 guys I could see making an impact on day 3 of the draft for the Jets. Some names that I, as a fan, will definitely be keeping an eye on. And I think that you, too, as a fan, should be keeping an eye on. We have some more comments coming in. And again, guys, make sure to check in, make sure to also follow and subscribe, because again, if you're following and you were subscribed, you would have seen something very interesting. This video was the response of a poll. And again, it's what you guys wanted me to talk about today. I get a lot of feedback from you on this, so I do really appreciate it as well. So a very good question here from, I believe I'm saying this right. I don't know if it's Train or Trey1N. Either way, hopefully I said it right either way. What's the deal with Ozzie from BC? Everyone is mocking him to us. I think the big thing with him is this is a massive right tackle. This is someone that probably will be there on day 2. Probably you're not going to get him in the 70s, maybe closer to 42nd, where the Jets are projected, or they're going to have to trade up back into the 2nd round to probably get him. He was a rock star at right tackle in Bill Bryan's offense, which uses a different mix of blocking techniques to mix a zone, some gap schemes that they throw in there. This is someone that only allowed 2 sacks over 2 seasons. His also shared with his father, who also played in the NFL. I mean, he's massive at 6'8". This is someone that is a towering tackle. I think he's probably a little bit more of a swing tackle. I like that despite his size, he moves incredibly well for the size he is at the 6'8", 316 pounds. The two things with him is I think you don't want to start him right away. You want to ease him into the right tackle position. For his size, obviously, he has some leverage issues, which again, like on some of the smaller, twitchier edge rushers, it's a little hard because he's so tall at 6'8" to really get a hand on some of them. And the other thing I think, too, is for someone of that size, I think you would like to see a little bit more of a road grader. Not to say he can't move people out of the way, but at that size, I think you were hoping to get a little bit more punch at the right tackle position. But look, I think Ozzie could be a nice fit. I think he's definitely an option where if the Jets go with a tight end like Tyler Warren at 7 or Mason Graham at 7, or they go a different direction than offensive line, he's someone that definitely would be on a short list of guys at the top of round 2, round 3. The question is, will he be there at round 3? I suspect he won't, just because I think there's so many teams that need offensive line help that they will stretch a little bit for a tackle over a skill position. But I do think that was a really, really good comment there, and I'm glad you brought up Ozzie there. I think once again, I'm not sure if it's TRA1N or just train, but again, really good comments. Would love to hear more from you guys. If you're in the live stream right now, would love to hear what you have to say. And again, make sure to hit the like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our content, especially on draft night, because once the Jets make their pick, we will go live. We'll break down the pick. But more importantly, when we talk on draft night, I think the big thing for the Jets and this fan base is when we get to draft night, it's going to be setting up day 2. Because it's going to be a trickle-down effect. Whoever they take at pick number 1 is going to significantly alter how they approach the rest of this draft. If they trade down and get more picks, it's going to impact how they're going to attack the rest of this draft. If they take a surprise pick at pick 7, then it comes to speculation. Well, could they get a tight end or offensive tackle in round 2, round 3? I think there's a lot of different scenarios. The biggest thing for me, and we'll talk about this later this week, because again, I'm doing a video. And again, I know a lot of you talk about draft trades. Well, I gave you the option as one of the videos, but that I still am going to do it later this week. I'm going to do the top trading partners to keep an eye on. Just like today, we're doing the top 10 day 3 prospects to keep an eye on for the Jets. I'm going to give you a video basically telling you who I think are guys and teams that could trade with the Jets at 7. I think one of the most intriguing ones will be New Orleans, and I'll talk all about that later this week. So make sure you hit the like and subscribe so you don't miss it when it comes through. We are getting to the end of the video today, but before we go, this is the final call for questions. Again, if you want to make a donation, use that super chat feature to make a donation to the channel and also jump to the front of the line. But I see we have a couple more people in here. I want to give you an opportunity to ask your question before we head out. Are there day 3 prospects that you really like, that you're hoping that the Jets will invest in when they are on the stage in Green Bay? Are there players that you missed, or are there players that you don't agree with that I mentioned in the top 10? Again, we went quarterback, 2 receivers, 2 safeties, 2 edges, a defensive tackle, and an offensive guard with the tight end. I think the guard one is a bit surprising because of all the needs. Guard probably isn't up there, but I'm also a sucker for offensive line on this channel. You know how much I value the offensive line and how important, I really value the position. So I'm very curious to see how this team's going to address the offensive line in the draft, because they're also going to want to run the football. And let's be honest, if you want to run the football and be effective, you're going to need an offensive line, and usually a pretty good one. But again, last call for questions on today's live stream. Just making sure, because again, I know you guys have a lot of really good and engaging questions, and I don't want to forget anyone that might have one more question before we get out of here today. So again, guys, if you have a final question today, make sure you're getting that into the chat now, because again, I don't want to miss out on it, especially if you haven't had the chance to ask a question today. I'd want to make sure you feel like you are being heard and that you are being appreciated. All right, it seems like we are good for today. Once again, everyone, thank you so much for joining us here on Rich Sports Talk. Again, we talked about the top day 3 draft targets for the New York Jets. If you're joining us after the live stream and you want to comment, make sure to comment below, give us your thoughts, and I will reach back out to you. And make sure to hit the like and subscribe button for a couple of reasons. First is easy. You don't miss any of our great content. But we also want to get this out to as many Jet fans as possible. And when you like and subscribe, you get us out to more Jets fans and more NFL draft fans in this great community. And we want to get them involved as much as possible. So give us a like, give us a subscribe, and make sure you don't miss any of our latest, because also you guys help choose the content for this channel. In fact, you chose it for today because we put a poll out on the community page last night giving you two options of what you wanted to watch today. And this was your choice. So again, guys, as always, I really value and appreciate the great feedback that you give this channel as always. But until next time, I'm your host, Nolan Rich, and this is Rich Sports Talk.